I was trying to fix the lawnmower today and figured out that I needed to tension the clutch, which I did, and that was fine. This is for the mower deck. And then I noticed that the belt was a little messed up, so I went and bought a new belt, and that was great. But then, as I went to go put it back together, I realized that the tensioner for that belt had come apart. And we're going to attempt to put it back together because I did not pick up another tensioner, and I'm going to do my best to build a new cable from the old one. The tensioner consists of this spring here, and the spring has in it is wire, and that piece right there sits inside the spring, and then the wire comes out, and then this is supposed to be connected to that right there, and you can see it's broken off and frayed. So what I'm going to try to do here is to cast that end. So I've got the end pressed into my sand casting kit here. And then I've got a new wire, which is longer than I need. And let's see if we can get that to focus. Here we go. So I'm going to stick that in there, and then I'm going to melt that existing little lead bit or tin bit, whatever it is probably zinc, and then pour it in here, and then make a new one on the end of that, right? And then we will attempt to cast the other side, which is right there, as well. So let's hope this works. So in order to make the stop on one end, I took the old one and I cast it here in the sand. And then I took some solder and I put that into my little crucible thing here, and we heated it up. It doesn't have to get very hot because it's solder. And then poured it in. So we see it in there. And now the trick is, what does it look like on the other side? So crack it open. And we'll see. All right. This has been cooling a little while. So you can see that we have a lot of extra bit up there, which is normal. That's the sprue bit, the sprue. And then we have this slug here, and that will prevent the wire from pulling out of the spring. And so now the trick is to cast the other side, and then we'll see if it works in the tractor. So I've trimmed off the bits we don't need, and we'll see if it fits. Whoops! We'll see if it fits in the spring. There's the spring, and ideally this would get all the way through. Of course, that's not quite straight. Let's see if we can get it to hold a little shape long enough to get through. There we go. So now this should stay in there if we pull on it, and it stays in there pretty good. Okay, so now we have to cast this end. We'll do that in the sand. So let me go and put it in and squeeze it, see if we can get a good imprint. All right, so I've put the other piece in here and I've squeezed it in the vise. Now this sand, this clay is called Delft clay. Comes from France or Belgium, somewhere along there. It's very, very fine clay, and it's designed specifically, or at least for this use case, it's all about building voids so that you can then cast metal into it. Some people might use a cuttlefish bone. I'm using the Delft sand. Okay, so we crack this thing open, and you can see I've got a hole there, and another, the actual workpiece is in there. Now you'll notice it's way down towards the bottom, and I had initially made an impression up here. I moved it because this is the length of the wire that I have to replace, and it has to go from here to there. And so you see I need to have enough so that it sits out the bottom, so that I can pour in the top. So before I pull this apart, what I am going to do is make a channel so that the solder can get down in there, down to the top of this thing. This is not particularly beautiful work, but it will do the job for this application. All right, so we'll make that channel, and when we close it up, it's going to be kind of, it'll just be a hole, and this can get down in there. At least that's the hope. Also need space for the wire to come out the top, and we'll cut that off when we're all done. So there is that. And I didn't take the workpiece out yet, the blank out, because I don't want it to move in there. I want to keep it where it is so that I'm sure that I get the right position. Okay, I think we have enough space there to do the casting. There's only one way to find out, right? Now when you cast, you want to make sure that you have enough material to burn or to melt, and so you start with what you think you need for the piece, plus you add some more. And what that will do is it will allow you to have some heat mass behind it, and then that will make a blob on the top. But that's okay, because that will allow the liquid metal to go down inside the workpiece. You can see there's some clean, shiny metal at the bottom of the blob there, and then there's some dirty stuff at the top. The dirty stuff we call the dross, and we don't want that inside the casting, so we'll leave that behind. I think we're looking pretty good. Well, it went in the hole. And in a little while, we can crack it open and see if we got the desired effect. Okay, it's been sitting there long enough. We can crack it open and see if we have what we're looking for. The nice thing about the sand is if it isn't what we want, then we can just cast another one. The metal, which is tin, 95% tin, 5% antimony, depends on where you live. You can just boil it right up and or melt it down quickly and pour it back in to get hopefully what we're gonna make. Ooh, and I think this worked. So if we pull this apart, it's still hot, but you can see that I have that shape right there, and that shape is designed to be the block that keeps this spring from falling inside the mower. And so with this, I'll let this cool off a little bit more. We'll polish it up, we'll cut this end off, and then I think that this is ready to go on the tractor. So the real question is, does it work? Let's find out.